You spoke before about staff, about workforce. I mean, the growth in that is enormous, and the investment that's going to be required for that. That whole collaboration stuff is also really important for the glue that holds disability services together, which is the relationship between the frontline worker and the person with a disability and their support people. What do you think needs to shift most there to be successful?
Well, I actually think organisational structures need to shift. And so we often think about organisations in terms of a hierarchy, a pyramid, with the frontline workforce at the bottom. I think you have to invert that and put that at the top, and it's a relationship with the customer or the person with a disability, their family members and carers. And I think we've got to understand the primacy of that, because if that relationship is not working well, the ability to secure and support that person with a disability is inhibited, they will look elsewhere. And so it's really about bringing a customer-centric view to everything that you do and recognising that your frontline workforce is fundamental in that. And so the restructuring of your operating model, the restructuring of your processes, the way that you work, the way the organisation is structured has to be around that to optimise that performance. And I think that's the challenge, and I think it's significant.
And one of the things that strikes me is that there's a lack of, some would say, appropriate supervision of those workforces anyhow, but the solution isn't about having more supervision. The solution is about empowering people better to do their job well with technology and better training and so on, rather than putting layers of management upon it to try and get systems in place.
In fact, you have to strip those layers of management out. And so what I think ends up happening is you will need a different type of workforce at the front line, and you will need a workforce that needs to understand how to work by a set of principles rather than a set of rules, because they will be working in different settings with different expectations. They will have to have a good understanding about risk management. They will need to know when to put the flag up the flagpole if there's an issue, and they need to build rapport with their client and build a strong relationship. So that quality of relationship in the longer term will be the thing that will determine how successful you are or not. And people with disabilities are telling us that. They're saying constantly, we don't want you to be experts in X, Y and Z. We actually want to be able to have similar values. We want to train you in things that are important to us, and we actually want to have a relationship. So we've got to like each other, and that's actually really important. And so it means that your workforce has to be very different in the future, much more diverse, much more reflective of the clients that you work with, and then you have to put the systems around that.
Which leads perfectly into the last question.
There you go.
How wonderful is that? Because we get feedback, as you would read more generally, that customers aren't that fussed about what the formal qualifications of the frontline staff are. Some qualifications can be helpful, but they're not necessarily a requirement. Yeah. It's more about exactly what you're talking about there, that interface, that trust, that the connection between the parties.
And so often training occurs for other reasons and other purposes, and it's actually got nothing to do with a person's then ability to work or take that career into a particular setting. And there will be need for different types of training along the way. So I think training, particularly for frontline workers, will become increasingly more modularised, more online, and more bespoke to the individual setting and person that they're working with. I think we will see a burgeoning growth in expertise that will need to be able to support those frontline workers through secondary consultation, but with that frontline worker translating that knowledge that the expert has into practice. And we see this through the introduction, for example, of therapy aids. Rather than using therapists in every setting, therapy aids working with families where kids with disabilities might need occupational therapy or a range of other things. They don't need the specialist there and then. They need the specialist advising and structuring the program, making sure that the therapy aid can do the work, but then the therapy aid can do the work with the family. And I think we'll see more of that type of growth over time.
And that's happened in the health sector for a long time now. That may well flow now into the disability sector, in the sense, I mean, we look around key workers and that sort of thing where they may have additional skills specialisation, but they're not everywhere, but they are available and so on.
Well, I also think it's a method for managing the paucity of expertise that we're going to have in the future because of the demand for the workforce being so high with the changes under the National Disability Insurance Scheme. We're just not going to have the supply that we need to meet those requirements. So we're going to have to think much more creatively about how we use our workforce and how we shape our workforce to respond to those needs, and at the same time deliver quality and safe services. and that's quite a complex.
Equation.
It is indeed.
And to make it attractive.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're competing with mental health, aged care and everything else.
Yeah, and so it does start to say, I think, that we have to think differently about industry-specific training to something a little bit more transdisciplinary.
It's been really good, Liz.
Good.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It was a pleasure. Thanks a
Thanks
lot.
very much.
Ta.